If there's one company that's been very prominent about taking down ROM websites, it's Nintendo. They've already engaged in a number of legal battles, taken down a number of prominent ROM outlets, and amongst the emulation community, I suppose, obviously that's rubbed them the wrong way. Nintendo does have legal grounds to do so, but Nintendo has also faced backlash because of their lack of game preservation practices, and a lot of these ROM websites are the reason why some of these older games are accessible at all. But alas, Nintendo has taken enough umbrage with these websites that they've taken their operators to court, and chief among them is this individual right here, the person who ran a website called RomUniverse. As reported by Torrent Freak here, the operator is a man going by the name Matthew Storman, and back in September of 2019 was when he raised Nintendo's eyebrows, which led to the gaming giant filing a lawsuit against RomUniverse. Arguments from Nintendo include that the website facilitated massive online copyright infringement of many popular Nintendo titles, and that RomUniverse made things worse by profiting from these copyright infringements by selling paid premium accounts that allowed users to download as many games as they wanted. Additional details can be found in this December 26, 2019 article from Torrent Freak, whose headline reads, Nintendo counters RomUniverse operator's defense in piracy case. The operator's defense was that he is actually just a service provider, and he cited the first sale doctrine. Storman argued that those who buy games have the right to sell, destroy, or give them away. The specific quote reads as follows: the first sale doctrine permits non-copyright or trademark owner to dispose of their copies as they see fit. The plaintiff does not own copies on websites. Now, Nintendo argued that as far as the first sale doctrine defense is concerned, this doesn't apply to mass copyright infringement. It only allows an owner of a lawful copy to dispose of an individual copy of a work. Now, aside from the fact that Nintendo already had an advantage given that they are the copyright owners of these games, Storman made the situation worse for himself by actually uploading, organizing, and cataloging infringing content. That alone is enough to lose safe harbor protections, Nintendo said. If Storman uploaded ROMs that then were freely distributed to people, then at that point, this is more than just him backing up his games. We're talking about him putting a game that he bought up on a website and copies being distributed without those people having to pay Nintendo for Nintendo's copyrighted work. So that definitely goes against him. Making things even worse for Storman is the fact that he charged for premium accounts that allowed users to download as many games as they wanted. This is directly profiting from somebody else's work by using somebody else's work to provide this download service. Yeah, that's going to open you up even more for a clear-cut lawsuit. Now, what's even more baffling is that Matthew Storman decided to defend himself in court without an attorney. That is just a very stupid idea. Even lawyers hire lawyers to defend them. Why? Because an external lawyer has the capacity to look at things more objectively without that emotional involvement and are able to guide their clients towards winning a court case. You don't ever want to go to court without a lawyer. Even if you're a lawyer, it is suggested that you don't do that. And for Storman to think that he could battle a gaming giant like Nintendo in court without a lawyer is pretty baffling. Now, development did happen on summer of 2020 when, after discussions with Nintendo's legal team, the operator agreed to shut the website down, but that didn't end the case. Nintendo still perceived that damage was done and reparations needed to be made. So the gaming giant moved for a summary judgment and $15 million in damages. Nintendo argued that this is a straightforward video game piracy case and the material facts are undisputed. For over a decade, defendant Matthew Storman owned and operated the website RomUniverse.com. He populated the website with pirated copies of thousands of different Nintendo games and distributed hundreds of thousands of copies of those pirated games. Storman then denied that RomUniverse offered for download and distributed pirated ROMs of thousands of Nintendo games. Storman also argued that he never uploaded any games himself, except whoops, in one of his testimonials, he actually did admit to uploading ROMs himself to the website, as stated right here, directly contradictory to a sworn deposition testimony wherein he testified that he uploaded the ROM files onto his website. And then as far as the subscription aspect of the website goes, he testified that during 2019, the site generated between $30,000 to $36,000 in revenue, which was his main source of income at the time. So he was using somebody else's copyrighted work to earn a profit, to create a subscription model, and that's a big no-no. So the cards were definitely stacked against Stormin. As far as the letter of the law goes, I mean, first of all, Stormin not having a lawyer with him kind of already screwed him, but he couldn't make any really good arguments against Nintendo, who brought up a lot of elements to this website that put him in a legally precarious position. So when the dust settled, the court did eventually side with Nintendo, though reparations were nowhere near what Nintendo was asking, $15 million. The final results were less than that, but still a substantial amount, $2.1 million. The judge ruled that instead of having Stormin pay $15 million in damages, the judge believes that $35,000 statutory damages for each of the 49 copyrighted works is sufficient. That amounts to $1.7 million. And then as far as trademark damages go, Nintendo's original motion asked for $400,000 for each of the 29 trademarks. The court awarded $400,000 for all combined. So you combine all of the numbers and you get that $2.1 million figure. Stormin lost the legal battle handily, and I'm not entirely surprised reading through the events of this article. There's plenty to be said about Nintendo just not putting a whole lot of effort into game preservation, and the fact that ROMs are the reason so many of these games are preserved, and there's arguments to be had about taking down these websites. But within the boundaries of the law, yeah, Nintendo was poised to win this one, and with him profiting from this rather than this just being an ecosystem that freely flows, him actually directly making money from this, that just made Stormin that much of a target, and that one is definitely on him. As frustrating as it might be to think about how Nintendo isn't finding a way to take their huge library, their huge back catalog of classic games and bring them into the modern era, to have Switch host so many of these games, especially in that portable format, and how that would solve so many of their qualms, because, you know, if you give people a better service and a better way of doing things than what piracy can offer, you know, if you charge the right price for the right product, for the right games, and put them in the right hardware, people will gravitate towards them. They will spend money on these conveniences if you offer them. It's frustrating that Nintendo continues to just have a lapse in judgment on that front, or just doesn't seem to be focusing too much on that front. But as far as this case is concerned, Stormin kind of handed it to Nintendo by engaging in the way that he did with the profiting aspect, and by not hiring a lawyer. It was within Nintendo's legal rights to engage this way, though I wish they would have the same amount of fervor for game preservation features that will allow us to carry old games over to new consoles. That'd be neat. But Stormin did break the law, and he broke it pretty blatantly. With all this talk about ROMs and their place in the games industry, and how hard Nintendo has been going against ROMs and ROM websites, I figured this was an interesting case to present for you guys to get your thoughts on all of this. I've shared my take. Be sure to share yours in the comments below. Thank you for tuning in, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.